Hello, everyone. Welcome to my channel. My name's Christiana Davidson, and I am a psychotherapist and a hypnotherapist, and I specialize in the area of narcissistic family systems and the impact that they have on us in adulthood. So if you were the child of a narcissistic parent, you may find today's topic interesting. But before we start, please like, share, and subscribe. Well, maybe you don't want to like it yet, wait till the end, but do subscribe if you haven't already. It helps to get my numbers up. Because as you can see, I'm only a small fish in this big, vast ocean of coaches in the narcissistic world. But I do feel like I have maybe just a slightly different angle on some things and something unique to offer. And that would really help me if you were able to do that. Oh, saying that, I'll just plug my laptop in 1 second, excuse me. So the topic for today is absolutely fascinating. Well, I think so anyway. I came across some research, recent research actually. I think it was in about 2003. No, 2011 rather. And it was done at the University of Negev in Israel. And the topic was all about narcissistic parents' choice of names, how they go about naming their children. So I will leave a link to this article at the bottom if you want to do some further reading on it. But that's what I'd like to talk about today. So the topic is what's in your name, especially if you had or if you have a narcissistic parent. And I'm going to get you at the end, I'm going to share a couple of questions for your own reflection to help you unpack this a bit further. So do watch the whole way through. But the gist of this video today is that narcissistic parents express themselves through the name they give to their children, that there is a process behind the choice of the names of their children, which motivates their choice of that particular name. So it's not just by chance. So do stick around as I help you, help all of us explore this a bit further. So if you have a narcissistic parent, they generally reveal their own issues and unresolved conflicts, especially with their own abusive parent, through the name they choose for their children, for their child. Now, if you think about it, our names are perhaps the most primary symbol that we present to the world about who we are. It's given to us right at the beginning. It's written on our tombstone at the end if we have one. So the name is the first thing by which we are known by others generally. So for a narcissistic parent, as you know, that they can only see their projected self in their children, and that's either the idealized self or the discarded self. So they're going to choose a name for their child that reflects that projection of themselves. So the name that you've been given is a projection from the narcissistic parent. Now, it's not the name specifically, but rather the motivation behind the choice of that name that links it to the narcissistic parent. I hope that makes sense. Traditionally, family names were passed on to children by the parents. You might be given the same name as your mother, or you might be given the same name as your father, etc. Or there may have been a cultural element, you know, or a religious one that kind of ties you into that cultural group or that religious denomination. But nowadays, parents are much freer to choose whatever they want, even make up their own names sometimes. Now, coupled with this, some really fascinating research in the late 1990s revealed that those who like their own name are more likely to have a better self-image, which makes sense, I guess. But they're also much more likely to be successful and to live longer if they have a positive name than those who did not like their name. Now, here's where it gets even more fascinating. The same is true of the initials of your name. So that's the first letter of each of your names, the first and last, first, middle, and last, etc. So those who had neutral initials or ones that made up a positive sort of acronym led to a better self-image and a better outlook potential for their lives. For example, if the initials spelled out something like VIP, Victor, Victoria, Iris. I can't think of a surname with a P. Puddle Duck. Or if you had something like PhD, you know, Philip, Harry, Darcy. Or even MD, like medical doctor. You know, any of those sort of positive connotations with the initials of the name also had the potential to be a narcissistic projection from the parent, some kind of grandiose, idealized projection. And narcissistic parents tend to go with that for one of their children at least. Now, of course, as with any narcissist and any narcissistic family system, there are projected idealized self, but there's also the projected discarded self, the discarded image of the narcissistic parent. So subtly or not so subtly, one might say, sometimes children are given initials that give some insight into that. For example, if the initials spelled out the word FAT, fat, or PIG, or anything else along those lines that has a slightly negative connotation, it has huge limiting potential on the future of the child. So parents with narcissistic personality disorder tend to give their children names according to the role that they're going to play for the narcissistic parent. Golden child, scapegoat, invisible child, you name it. The names, however, reflect their own issues and projections of both the false self and the rejected self. And it's, you know, just like that myth of Narcissus, where he can only see himself mirrored back to him. The key thing, however, here for us to realize is that the names given by the narcissistic parent to his or her child may often, and usually will often, indicate projection of what? Of their own inner conflicts, their own issues, and their own needs, as well as the issues that are still unresolved between them and their narcissistic abusive parent. So the whole process and motivation for naming is just so revealing. I'm sure some of you, maybe there are light bulbs going off. There were for me when I read this, considering my name is Christiana Davidson. It's food for thought. But like I said earlier, it's not actually the name that's the key thing. It's the motivation of the parent behind the name that counts. So name giving, therefore, becomes a means for the transmission of the narcissistic family multi-generational wounds and unmet needs and unresolved conflicts. As Otto Kernberg writes, grandiosity involves projection of the negative mental image of the narcissist onto others, as well as projecting that idealized image out. And therefore, the idealized child, the golden child, usually gets a name with some kind of grand meaning or grander meaning than the other children in the family. And strangely, the initials go together. Not necessarily that they spell out a word, but they go together, so they will flow. It might be something like B, C, D, or it may be something like A, B, C, or something along those lines. Even repetition of letters like T, 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 whatever, T, 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 or STTT or something like that, as long as there's sort of they go together, that's also a sign of this sort of grandiose projection. The narcissistic parent tries to identify with strength, power, awe, and wonderment, and thus the names chosen for the child are not really about glorifying the child. Let's get that straight. They're there to act as a glorification of the projected self of the parent. And that's something that this research didn't quite highlight, but I'd like to highlight here. This is really not about the child. This is about glorifying the parent through that child. So, for example, a child that's called Massa. Massa is another word for Messiah. This could represent, the parent's need for a savior. But it's also this glorious, sense of being the chosen one of God, sent to save the world. Rather a grandiose type name that sets them apart. Likewise, many children are called Jesus. Jesus being the sacrifice, the miracle worker, the one that came to save and make everything right, reflecting the parent's own need for a savior. Maria, or Mary, the chosen woman of God, immaculate, perfect, pure. Angelica, a messenger sent to the world with a message. God's right-hand person. All these fantastical sorts of names that conjure up awe and inspiring and standing out from the crowd. All very tempting for a narcissistic parent. As you know, one of the key features of narcissistic personality disorder is a lack of empathy for others and a total preoccupation with one's own need to be different or special. So I highlight that again here. This is not about the child being different or special. It's about the parent being different or special. That they have given birth to this angel. This Messiah has come from them. That is the key. This Messiah is of them. They're intricately linked with the child, that without them, the child wouldn't be so special, in other words. Now, if we go to the other side of the coin, though, names can also represent devaluation, of course. And this is a very hard one, because you think, like we were saying, your name is a massive part of this identity that you're given by your narcissistic parent. So, for example, a child who may be the scapegoat may be named after the hated parent, or the husband. He may get the same name, and the mother can't stand the husband, or they've divorced, or something along those lines. Or, for example, a daughter may get named after a woman who was childless in the Bible, or another who was a famous prostitute, or something along those lines, or somebody untrustworthy, like I don't know, a villain or something like that. Perhaps the mother wanted a boy, and so we'll give the daughter a boy's name instead of a girl's name, which can sort of express this disappointment, this mixed upness, this being less than a girl. The name may be suggesting a role that the parent needs the child to play. For example, may say Isaac. It means to be the sacrifice for the family, a sacrificed one for the father's dreams, or for the parents' dreams, or that they die young, something along those lines, or somebody who's fat, or something like that. Any sort of negative, subtle message that can come through in a name for the scapegoated child, that's what will draw the parent to that name, because it's their discarded self. And so with these types of names, it's aimed at subtly taking your power away and suggesting that there is no escape for you. This is your name. It's written in your name who you are and who you have to be. And therefore, there is no way you can step away from that role that you have been given for your narcissistic parent. However, it is completely not true. And that's the work that I do with clients. We realize that although you may have a name given by your narcissistic parent, there is the most incredible way that divine justice will step in and reveal to you how, in fact, that name given you is also your escape. The name given you that enslaved you ultimately becomes the one that sets you free. And it's just the most beautiful journey. I'm on it myself, and it's my great privilege to help others do the same. So if you would like to work with me, please reach out. Have a look at my website, www.delightinyou.com. And I will say, if you do want to work with me, don't hang around too long. We never know where life takes us, and the opportunity may not come if you do wait too long. So book in, and I'd be grateful for any comments and any thoughts that this video may have brought up for you. I know it did for me. Oh, and I was going to give you that question to reflect on. Here we go. So if you do any journaling or anything like that, write this question down. If you had a narcissistic parent, how does your name reveal your narcissistic parent's own issues and unresolved conflicts with their parent? So how does your name reveal your narcissistic parent's own issues and unresolved conflicts with their own parent? Fascinating. Take care, everybody, and see you again soon. Bye now.